Welcome back to The Uncensored Voice. This is Randolph Macias, your host. Today's guest is Trish DeBerry, running for Bexar County Judge, our Republican nominee. Welcome to the show, Trish.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to be here.
Thanks. And to her left, we have Chairman Jeff McManus of the Bexar County Republican Party. Welcome to the show also, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here with Trish.
And we just want to make sure that the Bexar County voters are aware of your candidacy. I want to make sure they know your thoughts on the issues that are going on currently here in San Antonio. So let's start with a brief biography. How long have you called San Antonio home? What brought you here? Have you been here all your life?
Been here all of my life, born and raised here. I was actually born in Wilford Hall Hospital. My dad retired from the Air Force, the youngest of 6 children. And when my mom found out she was pregnant when they were in Wiesbaden, Germany, she was like, that's it. We're not moving kids across the country every 2 or 3 years. My dad was up for retirement after 25 years. And so they retired here in San Antonio. So I was actually the only one of the 6 kids that grew up in one place. Otherwise, they were all over the place. Tours of duty in Germany a couple of different times, Dayton, Ohio. My brother was born in Victorville, California. A couple of tours here in San Antonio, obviously. So my dad loved San Antonio and retired here. And so anyway, people think it's kind of weird that I never left because I went to high school here, I went to college here, started a business here, which I think is important. 2 businesses, as a matter of fact. And I don't think it's weird at all. I mean, I feel like, the opportunities that were afforded me in San Antonio were immense. And a lot of that was associated with what I call, and my mother used to talk about it, grit and grace, meaning it's hard work. I mean, I've worked since the age of 14. We struggled to make ends meet with 6 kids many, many times, which I think is hard for people to understand when they see me today. My parents divorced. I was raised in large part by a single mother. And so when it came time for me to work, I got to work. Walked home from school every day, did my homework, cleaned the house, did my chores. I mean, the expectations were high. And so when we talk about really, I think what's missing from this country today, it's that hard work ethic and what that means and how far you can get ahead with a simple premise associated with how much people appreciate the fact that you work hard for a living. And I feel like I've done that all my life. So anyway, to whom much is given, much is expected, as we hear from the Bible. And, my dad reminds me of that every day, who's 96 years old right now. So I tell my kids all the time, be careful. I'm going to be around a very long time. There are good genes in this family. He's a strong conservative, says, biblically, says prayers when I go over to his house every time I'm over there, and a very, very strong Christian man who believes in not just morals and ethics, but the tenets of the Constitution and this country, because he served our country for 25 years. And so anyway, I'm just blessed to be in a spot where I feel like I can give back and provide leadership, which I think we're in desperate need of right now. But the community is important to me. It's an important one. And so I want to be able to give back.
Thank you for that, Trish. I really appreciate that. It seems like your roots in San Antonio have gone back a long time. I recall seeing you on KENS 5 as a reporter and an anchor for a period of time, and since then you have become a successful businesswoman in your own right, being the CEO of the DeBerry Group.
Mm-hmm. Well, not anymore. Actually, I divested myself from the company because I want to be able to devote full time to the position as Bexar County Judge without any perception problems or conflict of interest, which many people know have arisen, even though I never took a vote when I was a county commissioner that there was a conflict of interest at all. But I don't want that. And I think it was an opportunity for people that have worked for me for a very long time, and Jeff, you know this, working in private sector, about an opportunity to lift people up and let them succeed. And I think it was time to do that. And for me, having done this for 25 or 30 years, I wanted to do something different. And if I'm really giving back to the community in an public servant capacity is where I'm at today. And so I don't need the distraction really of a business that I'm operating versus devoting full time to the constituency that I have. But yes, Randall, to your point, founded 2 businesses, have been an entrepreneur and a business person for the better part of 25 years. And I think that's what made me so effective as a county commissioner. I wanted to bring that pragmatic business skill set to the court, because many times I think We have too many politicians that have no business background whatsoever. They're professional politicians. And so when I got in there was no grass that grew under my feet. I mean, I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I dug in and accomplished a number of different things as a county commissioner, including lowering the property tax rate to the lowest it's been in 25 years, which, by the way, I got pushback from my colleagues on that, even though that's something we should be celebrating, especially during this time. So a business person and an entrepreneur just has a different skill set and wheelhouse. We identify problems, come up with solutions, and it's not about, well, we can't do that because we've always done things this way. That's not the answer. There's a better way, more efficient way to be able to construct and really efficiently govern county government in particular, which I think is slid under the radar for a very, very long time. And so I'm all about transparency, accountability. I'm a small government kind of gal. I do not think the government has the solutions for everything. And so anyway, that's part and parcel of the reason why I'm here today, why I'm running for Bexar County judge, and why I was a county commissioner. Yeah.
And I was curious, did your time on the news networks contribute to your familiarity with San Antonians on all parts of town?
Yeah, I worked with, for anybody who's watching, KENS 5 was a dominant #1 television station when I worked there. A lot of great people. You and I have had conversations about Dan Cook, who's an icon when it comes to sports broadcasting. Albert Flores, who is a weather person, another icon. Chris Maru, another icon in journalism. And so it was a great time to be able to work there. And part of my success in the career there was not just about being on camera, but really about producing news, which I use today. It's multitasking because you're working with so many things in live television, especially behind the scenes on a broadcast basis, that, I feel like it has helped me because I've used that skill set not only in business, but even in governing about you got to keep the fires burning, right? Sometimes the ones that are up at the front are at a rolling boil, but you're still paying attention to the ones that are on the back burner. But I love being able to multitask and really diversify my interest in what I'm looking at, because part and parcel of being a successful elected official is our eye is on the ball on everything. There are some that may be on the periphery, but there are some that we are laser focused on. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate when I started out at KENS TV, when I graduated from Trinity, to work in broadcasting right out of college in my hometown, because I feel like I know this community like the back of my hand.
I said that for the benefit of those who are well-seasoned San Antonians that might find your face familiar.
Yes.
And so I wanted to bring some familiarity.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that, Randolph, was I was told I had to go by Pat DeBerry, because I was 22 years old when I was hired, and Trish was not appropriate for television news because, according to my executive producer, it sounded like a beach bimbo. And so in order to, we want to make this a little entertaining, right? And this is truth. They wanted to give me credibility as a 22-year-old that was working in television news. And so I went by Pat because my name is Patricia. But I'd never gone by Pat in my entire life. And so the funny story I have to tell about that is everybody knew me as Trish. And when the anchors would toss to me out in the field on live shot, they'd say, Pat DeBerry is standing by live now. Trish, what's going on out there? And so
they did.
Everybody was super confused. They were like, what is her name? Is it Pat or is it Trish?
So we finally cleared that up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, on the record, yes, with you. Yes, we've cleared that up.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. So at what point in time did you feel called to service in the Bexar County Commissioner's Court in Precinct 3?
So I'd work on a lot of different campaigns over the years, and I just, it's true what they say. Sometimes you just feel a calling, because I was born and raised in this community, felt like I knew all the issues that were important, and also felt like, my father raised us as conservative folks. And so when I had the conversation about the fact that I was considering running for Precinct 3, I had people tell me, Trish, really, why would you do this? You're a smart business person. Only stupid people run for office. And I was like, what? That is, no. That's not an acceptable conversation. Because if that's the case, we're left with inherent frustration across the board. I think it's high time that we have somebody that's got a business background that is said, hey, I've done that journey, been there, whatever, and now it's time for me to move on to something else and feel like from a leadership standpoint, I can really make a difference. I can stand up for people who need a voice. I can stand up for the issues that we think are important to this community. Property taxes, which nobody was addressing. I was talking about that 2 years ago when I ran for county commissioner. Now I feel like it's a super popular conversation because we've seen appraisals go through the roof, but I think it's important that we were having that conversation, or I was probably 2 or 3 years ago, because I heard it at the doorstep. Right. I mean, everybody from a campaign standpoint, oh, block walking doesn't work, you don't need to do that. No. We have great conversations at the door. And that's what I heard consistently across the board, even 3 years ago, was, hey, if you could do something about property taxes, like, I'm all for it because it's out of control. And so we've done whatever we can do under my leadership at the county regarding homestead exemptions, property tax rate decrease. The city has followed suit. And so I have had conversations with Governor Abbott about, hey, this is not just a Bexar County problem. This is a statewide problem about how we fund education in Texas. We have got to get a handle on this. And he has started to talk about that, because what we're going to have to do is have conversations at the state level very directly about what are we doing about that.
It's a very important issue that has been amplified through a period of time, and it's not going away. It's getting much bigger now. And so that is the focal point and in some cases with some voters, a deal breaker as to who to vote for. And
you confound that with gentrification issues.
I've seen
because
that
because people are being taxed out of their homes who have lived in their homes generationally. Right. And so at some point, I think we've got to have a conversation about a property tax freeze for those that have lived in their homes 2 and 3 generations, despite the fact that development is occurring all around them, because they shouldn't be taxed out of their homes and not have the ability to be able to raise families in future generations in that very same home.
And the same goes for military families.
Absolutely.
Here. As we're well known, Military City USA, it should mean something.
Yes.
We hope it does.
Right.
And I know that a lot of people are very appreciative of our military community here, both retired, disabled, and active duty, which we have all of them here in great quantity. My next question was, some of the Bexar County voters may be wondering, what was your reasoning for running for the office of Bexar County Judge before the end of your term as commissioner? What is your response to that? Because some may be wondering that.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you, I mean, Jeff knows this. It was a incredibly difficult decision for me because I loved the seat. I campaigned very hard for it, and I probably loved it more than I thought I was going to, just regarding the opportunity to really be able to dig in, make a difference, whether it was property tax rate decrease, appropriating a historic amount of money regarding clearing the backlog of domestic violence cases, whether it was restoring the elder fraud unit to the DA's office, which hadn't existed in 5 years. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we have an aging population that's scammed every day. Yeah, we have to have that. Whether it was parental leave policy, I mean, a multitude, body camera release, turnaround time, one of the strictest probably in the state of Texas. Because if we're going to ask taxpayers to invest millions in body cameras, we got to have some kind of a policy in place and turn around, because 95% of the time it exonerates the police officer. But it also gives closure to the family relative to the situation that happened. So anyway, it was those kinds of things that I was like very solution oriented on, and I wanted to tackle, and felt like, you know, I love this job. But I'll be honest with you, when the seat came open for Bexar County Judge, and there were folks that had approached me about it, and I was like, look, it's hard for me. Like, I'd have to resign the seat. But as I looked at the landscape and I looked at what I thought was necessary from a leadership standpoint in this county, I wasn't just going to wave the white flag and concede it and say, hey, because I still hear it today, it's a blue county, there's no way a Republican can win. I'm like, no, we have to be able to frame a platform regarding conversations and issues that are important. And that is one of them being big government and bloated government is not the answer. There are other options associated with that. And it is about how we pull this community out of poverty, because, by the way, we have the same poverty rate that we've had since the 1980s. We've got to think differently about how we're doing things. City-county consolidation. How are we scaling impact regarding healthcare? A merger between the Metro Health Department at the city and UHS at the county. We save taxpayers money and we scale impact regarding accessibility and affordability to healthcare. All of those things have to come to the fold. And so I just had big ideas about things that I thought I can't stand back and let this happen. Win, lose, or draw, and believe me, we're going to fight the good fight no matter what come November. But we're going to frame a platform and we're going to force a conversation regarding the issues that are important to this community.
Well, Trish, there's also that issue of timing.
Yeah.
You have to make decisions in a timely way at certain times to be successful. So I think that you observed that if we didn't move forward with a good Republican candidate at this time, we would be waiting how many years to have another shot at this?
A long time.
Thank you.
Yes, a very long time. Yeah, and to your, it's a good point, Jeff. I mean, look, it's a good year. The environment is favorable as far as a Republican. So I want to reiterate what you're talking about that and tell people point blank, it is a once in a generation opportunity for a Republican to be elected county judge. We will never see this other opportunity again. And so the fact that, I saw that and said, hey, I'm going to step up, and not just for my seat, but for those that were down ballot, because we have a Democratic-controlled county courthouse. But what did it mean down ballot for the judges that were running, for the DA that's running or whatever? We had to have someone at the top of the ticket. And that is democracy at its best and at its finest in action, is when we have two parties talking about the issues that are important and framing platforms. And like I said, it was an opportunity of a lifetime. And I've been somewhat of a risk taker all my life as an entrepreneur, and I saw what could be a golden opportunity, but it doesn't come without grit, grace, and hard work. And hopefully you all are following me in the campaign on Facebook, and we are not going to be outworked. We're everywhere. Yeah, so
including here today.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes. Just curious, a small question. Have you ever held a public office prior to your Precinct 3 commissionership?
I have not. I ran for mayor in 2009 against a candidate that many of you, including your viewers, will know as Julian Castro. And so it was probably the tea leaves were not as good as they are now regarding Republicans. And I was running against someone who had a huge name ID. But there again, I ran for that office in 2009 because I just felt like there were many things that I talked about that came to fruition, whether it was what were we doing with downtown, what were we doing about accessibility to education and healthcare, what were we doing regarding Fiesta, when we've got all that trash and all those cups and things like that, why weren't we recycling, So there were, anyway, many ideas that I felt like I wanted to be able to get across. But, everybody has their first run at office, right? And sometimes it's not successful.
You try, you fail, you try again.
Yeah, but I learned a lot of really good lessons from that race. And I'll be honest with you, and it's, for those of you that are thinking about, I want to run for a school board, I want to be either on city council, I want to be a county commissioner, I want to be on planning and zoning, whatever committees, because we need good people to step up. Sometimes you don't get there the first time, and there are a lot of lessons associated with that. But I'm a big proponent of what we call failing forward, meaning you fail, but you get back up, and you dust yourself off, and you learn those lessons, and you go back at it. And I said I would never run for public office again. And look, here I am. So the end of the story is never say never, because it's about, to your point, Jeff, opportunity only comes once, knocking. And you have to take advantage of the opportunity.
I agree.
So
entirely.
Thank you for that, Trish. I appreciate that. So let's get back to the issue of property taxes. You took some action as Precinct 3 County Commissioner in that regard. Is there an enhanced role as county judge to attack the same thing?
Well, I think, like I said, we've done what we've been able to do at the county and the county and city level, because really, when you look at county by county, we only have so many tools in the toolbox, regarding what we're doing with property taxes. However, I will tell you, it would be very helpful to have a Republican judge that has a good relationship with the governor of Texas, that we can have conversations that are not adversarial, and we can talk about issues that we think are important to constituents. And I know the governor I talked about conversations that I had had. And then at a fundraiser that he had more recently, he actually talked about like the opportunity maybe for what we have in the rainy day fund, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of money that's over there. So does he have the opportunity to wipe out the M&O rate associated with school districts, which is where a majority of our taxes come from, property taxes come from? If he can eliminate that and use monies from the rainy day fund to do that, that's a big dent, obviously, in property taxes. So, yeah, I mean, we have a limited, like I said, tools or ammunition or whatever to be able to combat what's happening, because it really is a state issue. However, you can use the office as a bully pulpit to make sure that we're having constant conversations with the legislature, constant conversations and pounding the drum regarding the need for property tax relief. So.
Yes, I was very curious if what the county judge's role was as opposed to a commissioner. Do you all act as a full body? Do you set an agenda as Bexar County judge and then?
Well, we set the property tax rate, okay, which is hugely important. So, yeah, we've got to look at like what's the give and take associated with that. The property tax decrease that I advocated for, which was controversial at the time, was a $1.8 million hit to the county budget. And when I talk about it being controversial, I did get the support of the county judge and Commissioner Calvert. But let me tell you, it was tough on the other side. There were two county commissioners who were dead set opposed to that property tax rate decrease and said, you're going to cut women's programs and you're going to cut children's programs. And I'm like, no. I never said that. We're going to scrub this budget because there's a lot of fat in this budget to be able to offer taxpayers relief. And it comes without cutting women's and children's programs. It's a great talking point. Yeah, when you're trying to prove your case, but I knew after having scrubbed that budget, we could afford to do it. So yes, there is an opportunity to take another look at, do we lower it even further? But yeah, where do we make up the difference? But I think there's opportunity to be able to do that.
Thank you for that. Let's move on to a different subject then. Infrastructure in Bexar County is in need of a massive makeover. Do you have a plan to fund these projects to make Bexar County more appealing to people that may want to move to Bexar County? Because we have increased our population, according to the Census Bureau, multiple times. Sometimes San Antonio increased more, sometimes Bexar County as a whole increased more than the city itself. This is according to the last Census Bureau report. How would the funds be, brought forth? Is it through a taxation? Is it through certain types of funds that are already in place?
I mean, I prefer that it's not through taxation, obviously, but to your point, we have huge infrastructure needs in this community. We are a growing population. I had the opportunity to serve on the Metropolitan Planning Organization when I was a county commissioner. Lots of conversations about not just us, but the counties that are around us, whether that's Kendall County, whether that's Atascosa County, whether that's Comal County, whether that's Gillespie County. Like it or not, relative to the population growth that we're experiencing, we're all going to start really merging. County lines are going to start merging very closely together. A prime example is what we're doing, and the counties had a big role in that, as has the state, as have the feds, regarding the extension of Blanco Road all the way to the county line. But that you go all the way to 46 basically in Comal County when you do that. And so we're going to have to start taking a super hard look at a third loop in this county at some point, and it may well be 46 because of the growth that we have in it. Now, that's controversial. I completely get it, and we're going to have a lot of public input associated with that. But if we're going to keep up with the kind of growth that we have here, we have to have the infrastructure in place. And some of that comes from bonding capacity. Some of that comes from the county acting as a funnel. What many people don't know, the big difference between county and city government is county government is basically a subsidiary of the state. And so we get a lot of state funding that comes through here based upon relationships that we have at the county. But we also get a lot of appropriation and money that comes down from the feds too, especially when it comes to infrastructure, through grant opportunities, through different funding opportunities and appropriations, which obviously we have a Republican who's head of appropriations and Tony Gonzalez is there, whatever. So relationships become very important in how we access capital associated with funding infrastructure that is desperately needed here without necessarily taxing people on that.